What's up, everybody? My name is Paul Esden Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming live simultaneously in count 'em, three different places. The Heavy on Jets Facebook page to over 20,000 New York Jet fans. Yes, sir, a little late-night edition. Again, we do this every other week on the YouTube channel for Old Boy Green, and that is myself speaking in third person. So youtube.com/BoyGreen25 for all kinds of great content. And the other weeks that I'm not on, again, every other week, it's not on my channel. It's on my good partner, the Buffalo Jet Fans YouTube channel, which, again, his description and channel link is down below. And, of course, we're streaming live on my Twitter account, @BoyGreen25. Without further ado, it's time to bring in the Buffalo himself. Let's herd him on in with all his Green Stampede crazies. Buffalo Jet fan himself. What's up, Buffalo?
What's going on, man? Good to be here.
Well, I have to tell you right off the top that, first off, let's cheers to another victory week, Victory Monday. How have you? 2-2, not too shabby. I know you got the water or the
moonshine
tequila from moonshine from the old mason jar. Very nice. Hey, beautiful. I'll just take a Dewey. I'll take a step back on this one, but here we are.
Yeah, man. 2-2. Who wouldn't have signed up for that?
100%. And I'm going to be honest, another thing that I would like to sign up for, and we have by virtue of what the schedule is quite frankly divisional games that mean something, and games that mean something for that matter. But specifically at this point, a divisional game, and the Jets get the first whack at the proverbial pinata this week, week 5, at home against Miami Dolphins. And that commonality is actually through the first half of the season. All three of the first divisional games all come in the lovely confines of MetLife Stadium, that being the Dolphins, Bills, and Patriots, before they turn to the road for the second half of those. I do want to give a quick shout out to all the people who happen to be hopping on in, getting the scuba gear, and diving into the deep end of the pool for all things New York Jets. Guys, this is an interactive show, so feel free to get involved on the Facebook, the Twitter, the YouTube, and make sure you get your participation trophies, because that's important in today's society. So again, hit the like button, hit subscribe down below to not only my channel, but how about Buffalo over there, who I just saw broke the 5K mark. I know a couple quarterbacks doing that in the NFL. Buffalo now joining the elite of the elite. So welcome to the 5K club, my man.
Yeah, it's crazy. Glad that Jets YouTube community could carve out a niche for me. The support has been awesome.
And I got to say, it's a little uncomfortable how quickly you're rising, because, I used to think that I was the big deal on your show, and with your meteoric rise, I feel like some scrub. Like, I'm just like some guy. Yeah, this is like the Buffalo show featuring more Buffalo, because, I mean, you're the superstar here, man, which is spectacular that you're able to carve out some of your time out of your busy 5K YouTube schedule to carve out some time for us. So much appreciated, man.
Yeah, it was cool. I think the coolest thing was probably when I went to the game, the home game against Baltimore. There was a couple people like spotted me out in the parking lot and stuff. A couple people were just honest. They were like, "Hey, I don't like what you have to say," but I'm like, "Hey, man, at least you know who I am."
That's pretty cool. I'll be honest. And my I don't know if I've said this on air anywhere, but I went to the week 1 game, Baltimore. We were in the Jet shop, right? So on whatever our floor, I think we were in the 300 section. So we were in, everyone has a shop, a Jet shop, for those who have never been to MetLife Stadium, on each of the floors. So I just go in just to look at all the baby stuff for a little Zariah, some Jet stuff. And we're in line, and there's a couple in front of us. And I see the guy keep like peeking over his shoulder at me, and I'm kind of like, do I got some on my shirt? What seems to be happening here? And then it's almost like his girlfriend like encouraged him, like, go on. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? He turns around and goes, are you Boy Green? I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm the guy. And Tatiana thought I paid the guy or something. And I'm like, see, kind of a big deal. That's what Anchorman was talking about. So again, see it. And the other thing he said beyond just saying Boy Green, he's like, man, Jets Twitter is friggin' crazy, man. He didn't say frickin'. He just like, Jets Twitter is friggin' crazy, man. And we're just a big community, which is how we open up these doors for this very show. Buffalo, again, you're the one who started this puppy, opening the doors to me, and now we're opening the doors to each other. Mi casa es su casa, me channel es su channel, which is great for me, because again, you're Mr. 5K, so I'm going to try to leech off as much of that as possible every other week on the show, so make sure you guys are doing that as well. So it's fantastic. I have to say, though, and it's going to rev me up to play it, quite frankly. So another thing that we do on my channel over here on my show, even when Buffalo's on, is play a couple of clips, play a couple of videos. And there was one that I'm going to be honest, Buffalo, I was saving in the holster. I just here's another flex. I'm trying to get on the Buffalo 5K level, so I got to try to flex as much as possible here. So I'm going to be speaking at my college coming up later this month, and they call it this media summit of sorts. It's a sports thing where they're like, here's what our cool alum are doing in the community, blah 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 blah, whatever they're doing. Who gives a flying hoot? So I'm going to be at this thing, and I'm going to be doing a bit. So they had me on their official college podcast earlier today. And they were asking me about all kinds of like jazz that I'm randomly doing, and I got to tell you that one of the flexes of this is the fact that we're actually making some things happen here in the Jets community as we're kind of getting blown up here. Oh yeah, there's Buffalo, a little love. There we go, a little Twitter love. Make sure again, guys, a reminder wherever you're watching, I'm all over the place here, but wherever you're watching, make sure you get your support in wherever you can. And I just have to say that I am pumped up here, Buffalo. Again, we've got this Jets-Dolphins week coming up this week. And quite frankly, this is an imminently winnable game here, Buffalo, that a team is coming in with their backup quarterback. Tua was already rolled out earlier this week on Monday with a concussion protocol, so he's not playing. And thank the Lord above, just for Tua as a human being, for Pete's sake. There was no way he could have possibly played in this game. I'm not a doctor. We just sometimes play one here on the YouTube show. But I got to tell you, man, that, again, I'm just glad that he's not playing, which means Teddy Bridgewater revenge game. Buffalo, give me your fondest memories of the Teddy Bridgewater Jets era.
Oh, man, I went to a training camp where he looked pretty good. Look, Teddy's always been a pro. I think that it's hard to find any NFL fan who, like, hates Teddy Bridgewater, right?
Yeah.
I think we all kind of have the same opinion of him. You probably don't. He's never going to be the guy that you sign up to be. Here's our franchise quarterback the next X amount of years. But every year you look around the NFL and you can't name 32 quarterbacks who are better than him. Arguably the best backup in the league. And I think with how well Tua was playing, we have to admit those first three games, it obviously is a step down in quarterback talent for the Miami Dolphins for this game.
Yeah, and I need to get back on track because what the hell was he talking about his college for no reason? So the thing they asked me on the podcast was like, so they like studied my tweets. Again, stalker vibes. They were studying my tweets saying, wow, you tweet this often, like, or all those tweets just kind of come to mind. And I want them to do the same analysis on the Buffalo Jet fan Twitter account. And I want to hear those results. However, they were asking me about that one tweet that blew up, which I'm about to show all of you guys. And guys, this is one I'm going to be honest, I saved in the holster for divisional week. Robert Saleh on One Jets Drive. It was a video, and I love clipping videos, just little clips of bigger things that they show. And the one that really grabbed me was Robert Saleh's message to the team earlier this offseason. I'm going to be honest, this revved me up. I can only assume if you have a pulse that it revved you up. So we're going to throw that up on the screen here, everybody. And that is this. Robert Saleh to his team on the importance of the divisional thing in the AFC East and being prominent. Here's just Robert Saleh. Let his words wash over you.
Whole story. We always talk about when you're writing the story of your own life, never allow another man to hold the pen. Period. We have a gap to close. And here's the real stat for you. We've got 12 consecutive division game losses. We've been outscored by our opponent 358 to 158. That's 16.6 per game. We have a gap to close. All right. Showing up is a first step. Guys. How we grow and how we close that gap is going to depend on every person in this room, including me, myself. You guys feel me on that? That's real. 12 losses. That ends this year.
And there's a lot of bleeping, of course. One Jets Drive, they just have to do that. But he says that shit ain't flying. That shit fucking ends this year. Let's just throw the swear words out there so you guys get the full experience. Like, man, like, because it's been like. Can you believe that stat? 0-12. Every team in the AFC East has swept the Jets for 2 straight years. And not only have they swept us, pulled out the broom emojis from old Gam Gam, okay, is that they beat us by an average of over 16 points per game. So not only are we getting our asses swept, we're getting our patookies beaten with a brick. And I know there are occasions, for instance, it's Jets Dolphins quote unquote rivalry. Again, not much of a rivalry, as I'll share some other stats on that series as of late. Those games were actually close last year. Jets lost both those games by a touchdown. However, but we've been beat 0-12. No wonder the Jets haven't been to the playoffs in 11 years when you hear that. And that's only as of recent, man. That for the flying love of Pete here, Buffalo. It's time this. And I said it in the headline, and I want to reiterate, we're only 10 minutes into the show. This game on Sunday, and I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I don't think I am here, Buffalo. This is the chance to define the entire season for the New York Jets. They're at 2-2. With the win, they're at 3-2. They tie. The Miami Dolphins have a chance to be in first place, share of first place, depending on whatever happens with Buffalo. I imagine Buffalo is going to destroy the soul of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so probably not. But even still, that this is an opportunity to tell the rest of the National Football League, and I highlight the word national in bold, big letters, that, again, the Jets are hovering around 20 in the national power rankings that I'm seeing, and that's fine. That's the bottom third of the league. However, I think if the Jets beat the Dolphins at home, regardless of the Teddy Bridgewater quarterback situation, people are going to go, whoa, look at the New York Jets. And even beyond the national people, for us, the Jets have lost 12 straight goddamn divisional games, Buffalo. I've had enough. Absolutely enough. And they're at home, and they have a chance to win their first home game this year. They have a chance to show something for their fans. And just imagine they could give the business here, Buffalo. And so I want to start there, that coming off that Robert Saleh passionate speech, my man, that it shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, the results are there. If you want to get to the playoffs, Robert Saleh said it earlier this week, the quickest way to the playoffs is through your own division. The Jets have a chance on Sunday. Do you agree with me that this could be a season-defining game? Am I putting perhaps too much hype on this battle between Zach Wilson and Check's Notes, Teddy goddamn Bridgewater?
No, man, I might take it a step further. I think this is the biggest game the Jets have played since Eric Decker walked it off in overtime in 2015. I think that there's so many things at stake. You mentioned the divisional losing streak that has to end. Also, the Jets haven't had a winning record in October since Josh McCown was quarterbacking them. And they haven't had back-to-back wins under Robert Saleh. And I think if we win this game, like, what does it change in terms of the overall outlook of the season? I don't know, but we officially have a season. If we win this game, we are officially not doing mock drafts and Thanksgiving. I think we are officially going to have a legitimate NFL season. It's going to be huge. And just 3-2 to 2-3, oh, it's such a big separator. Every week, people say, oh, it's just one game. It's just 2 games. And it's like, dude, 2 games is like what? I mean, 15% of our season? Like, it's 17 games every week in the NFL. Means a lot. And if I'm not going to call it a must win, because if we lose, it's just still kind of a wait and see mode. But to me, the biggest part of it is what can we do when there's some excitement and expectations around us? Because the Jets, we've been a team that, once you're just about to give up on them, they catch someone in a trap game, like Tennessee, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay almost. And then once there's any sort of hope or excitement, like remember when we went to coming off the Tennessee game, I think last year we went to London to play Atlanta.
Falcons, that's correct.
And we just laid an egg against a bad Falcons team, right? So that's what can't happen. Now, I'm not going to call it a must win, but we have to come out, and we have to come out with a sense of urgency. We have to come out and look physical and look prepared and play clean football. We can't have multiple personal foul 15-yarders anymore. We have to be excited that we're 2-2, but we also have to accept that maintaining 500 football with the mistakes that we've made is going to be mathematically impossible at some point. You're going to have to pay the piper. You can't be converting onside kicks and relying on Kenny Pickett to throw 3 interceptions in a half every week to win. I think we've treaded water, and now Zach Wilson, he shakes the rust off. All the excuses of it takes time to gel and all this. It's all outside of, and especially if Dwayne Brown is back, like we're in about as good a shape as you could have asked. And I think if we lose by a field goal because they're a year ahead in their rebuild, I can live with it. But we just can't do the same old Jets thing of falling down 10 right away, never being competitive in the second half, and then we pad the stats late to give people ammunition to say on Twitter it wasn't so bad. Can't do that.
And to carry the torch of what you just said, I think an important piece of this puzzle, at least we haven't seen it in the Saleh era yet so far, again, small sample size, but and this even extends beyond Saleh, quite frankly, but only fair to, I guess, use him, is the Jets historically have not handled success well. It's that they will win a game, and it's like they've won the Super Bowl. And again, I celebrate like anything when the Jets win, but almost so much so that there's a level of complacency, for lack of a better word, and then the next game they lay an egg. Again, Tennessee, Atlanta is a perfect example. We think we're turning a corner. We have this crappy Falcons team. on a platter, like, oh, phenomenal. This is where, and then if I believe correctly, the bye week was after that for the London. So again, you would have had that nice little run, go into the bye, and then reset, and let's see what happens. Unfortunately, they did not. So I think it is important from that perspective as well to show that you've got a backbone, for Pete's sake. We've got a lot of comments. I see a super chat in there, but I do want to reveal one more stat. And why I say this Jets-Dolphins rivalry is in quotes, because it hasn't been much of a rivalry recently. I tweeted this out, Buffalo. I'm not even sure if you're aware of these statistics. However, this biannual Jets-Dolphins matchup, again, they play it twice a year being in the AFC East, Miami has won 10 of the last 12 meetings and has outscored the Jets specifically 277 to 186. We just talked about the Jets versus the entire AFC East, and that is a 100-plus point differential. But this is nearly a 100-point differential itself in just the Jets-Dolphins, quote-unquote, rivalry. So if the Jets, in my opinion, don't want to be labeled as the same old Jets of the past, well, Sunday is a great example, a great opportunity, if you will, to change that narrative. So again, the Dolphins, again, I can't even call it a rivalry. Like, the Dolphins have kicked the Jets' butt 10 of the last 12 meetings. So again, there has to be a level of, pride, quite frankly, for this Jets team. Again, they're not all responsible for all those losses, and that's what all the players would say if any of these stats get trotted out. But it is a stat that, unfortunately, Jet fans are left to settle with, because despite coaches changing and players changing, we're always still here, and we have to deal with that. It's early in the show, but you know what? I like the jib of one Chris K. the Fifth, who is a dedicated member of this show and a dedicated listener and viewer. To my three favorite Jets Talk maniacs, which only leads me to the question, who is the third Chris K. the Fifth? There's a lot of numbers being thrown around. 5th, 2, 3. I didn't go to school for math, so you're going to have to figure out who the third guy is, because we need to get him on this show immediately to complete that trifecta, that triforce for your Zelda dreams. But what's up, boys? What's your guys' score predictions for Sunday? Now, there's a couple of key factors for me here, Buffalo, on this, the health of multiple players on both sides. First off, the cornerbacks. No Byron Jones for the Miami Dolphins, and X, a.k.a. Xavier Howard, is doing day-to-day with a groin, and the way Mike McDaniel described, again, I always listen to the opposing press conferences. I think there's a lot of nuggets to be absorbed from there. He said he's going to try to give it a go against the Jets. That hardly seemed inspiring, that X will be ready to go. So TBD on that, which means the Dolphins could be down their top two corners against this talented Jets wide receiving core. And if they're down and they like to blitz as often as they do, that 50% plus analytical mark on cover 0 would be very interesting with those questionable corners. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore could eat. That would be nice. And then the other one, as you mentioned, Dwayne Brown, the musical chairs at offensive tackle. And we're going to have to dive into some Buffalo sizzling takes I've seen on the old Twitter sphere about perhaps a different franchise left tackle that we haven't been dabbling in before. More on that perhaps later. But Dwayne Brown, who is eligible to come off of IR, he was practicing, so the 21 activation window has been open. No guarantee, of course, that he will play on Sunday. However, it is open potential for him to come, which could kind of reinforce the offensive line, allow some players to go back to their natural positions. I will say this, Buffalo, I think the Jets can win this game, and I'm going to predict that they will win this game. Again, everything tells us they shouldn't. Again, 12 straight losses inside the division. They've lost 10 of 12 to the Miami Dolphins. And again, while the Dolphins' losses last year were close, they haven't been, historically speaking. But I feel good about this. I think the Jets match up really well against the Miami Dolphins. And then plus, as much as we've made fun of Tua, Teddy Bridgewater is obviously a downgrade, or he would have been the starter. And I think we know what Teddy is. He's been in the Jets building. We've seen him around. Even when the Broncos destroyed the Jets last year, Teddy Bridgewater didn't do diddly crap when he was playing us. So I think he is limited physically. And I think that the similar argument I made about the Steelers and having Tyreek Hill and all these talented weapons, if you can't get them the ball because you're not talented enough, maybe that can kind of compromise it a bit. I think the Jets win this game 28-26 over the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. First off, feel free to comment on any of those factoids. And Buffalo, feel free to share your early prediction here on the show.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that bad against Miami the last 12 games. I think, honestly, the Patriots in the Brady era are my most hated team of all time. And obviously, you know the name of my channel, and the Bills being good now is obviously the vein of my existence. But I think the Jets being so inept against the Dolphins specifically has frustrated me more than anything over the past 5 or 6 years, because the Dolphins haven't been good, and we just found ways to lose to them. And I think that their online fan base is like the worst of the bunch out there. And if we win, I'm probably going to be banned from Twitter. And if we lose, I should probably deactivate my account. So I have a lot of personally riding on the outcome of this game. And I think that I have a lot of feelings that I felt towards the Cincinnati Bengals game, because there was a matchup right there on paper for the Jets to go ahead and take advantage of. The reeling offensive line with the Jets' second highest paid defensive line due for a breakout. And we're like, we know what the same old Jets would do, right? They wouldn't be able to take advantage of this matchup. The Bengals would have a get-right game. But you know what? The same old Jets also probably wouldn't close in against Cleveland and against Pittsburgh.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So now this is another test, because on paper, there's a few things that we really like. Quinnen Williams playing as well as any defensive interior player besides Aaron Donald, going against the guard they have in Miami. His name sounds like the guy who killed Rocky, but he is like one of the worst pass protecting guards in the NFL. He's been leaking sacks, like nobody's business the last 20 games. And then you mentioned the corners. I think it looks like Byron Jones definitely isn't playing. Xavier Howard,
he's out. Byron Jones 100% out. X is up in the air. Yes. Yeah,
and even if X plays, he's not going to be at 100%. So the trio of wide receivers for the Jets, like that is the matchup. And the Dolphins defense has been bad. The offense has been good. Defense giving up 400 yards a game. They have less sacks than the Jets, even though they have some talented players on the defensive front. So same old Jets would allow the Dolphins defensive line to have a breakout. The wide receivers wouldn't be able to figure it out. So let's not do that. And talking about Teddy Bridgewater, we talked about how he's a pro. I think limited is the perfect word for it. But I guess it seems like it's taboo to expect Zach Wilson, a number 2 overall pick at quarterback, to go ahead and do the thing of being good at his job anytime soon. But I disagree. I disagree with the take of like, you're high on Zach Wilson, and I'm like, oh great, let's go outplay Teddy Bridgewater at home. And it's like, whoa, you can't. I mean, no, go do it, Zach. Go be significantly better than Teddy Bridgewater in your own building. Eventually, if Zach Wilson's going to be the dude, like pretty soon we should feel like looking at another team quarterbacked by Teddy Bridgewaters, the Jacoby Brissetts, regardless of what else is on their roster, we should feel like that's a W. Every team we look around that has a special quarterback, we know what special means. I don't need to give you a list, but they're going in there and they're looking at these bridge, high quality backup, quasi-starter level quarterbacks, and they're chalking that up as an automatic W. When is it time for Zach Wilson to start doing that? No better time to start than Sunday.
I love that take. I think that's a beautiful take. And Chris, I also want to give you a shout out, my man, for supporting the channel and supporting both me and Buffalo here with your YouTube Super Chat. And again, I always I like to explain this for people who don't know what a Super Chat is. It is available exclusively on YouTube. It puts his comment in a different color, allows us to see it, the hundreds of comments that come in, and you support us and make sure that we can put food on the table for our families. And you want that to happen, don't you? So feel free to continue to do that. So Chris K. the Fifth, appreciate it, pal. I also want to give a special shout out. This person didn't do a YouTube Super Chat, but this is a guy that, Buffalo, you may not be aware of. He is always commenting, trying to find the status of our Boy Green Buffalo show on a weekly basis. So let me throw Frank Sapienza here on the show, and I got to tell you that on different videos I do on the channel, because I do more than just the Boy Green Buffalo show. Although, of course, that's the prime meat that you order on the menu, of course. But I'm going to be honest, Frank is always in the video saying, "Hey, you and Buffalo are on tonight, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's at 9:00." I went, "Okay, cool. I was just checking." So he's always in the mention saying, "Hey, when's that Boy Green Buffalo show?" So I appreciate you on the old TiVo going boop 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 boop, getting that record button out. We appreciate it, pal. So thank you so much. So a good night when the boys are talking and they're 2-2. So I got to be honest, Buffalo, it's just great to have those vibes and find ways to win, because I'm going to be honest, I don't want to spend too much time on the Steelers because we've turned the page, but right. A lot of those Jet teams down 10 in the fourth quarter would have found a way to lose. The Baker Mayfield thing, I think from a couple years ago, we were all getting those vibes when the Kenny Pickett switch happened and all that. And I think a lot of us are like, oh boy, we've seen this before. You still have the confidence with how Zach Wilson, of course, turned around the fourth quarter. But again, still, there's a little bit of those heebie-jeebies. So it does feel like, to your point, that there's the Bengals game, which scares you because, again, that should have been a coming out party. But on the other side, those two comeback wins to me just feels like this team is different than normal.
It is, and I have to give credit to Robert Saleh, who I liked the hire, and I think I've just been kind of – it's, again, I think maybe my expectations are probably really a little bit too high for how quick we should turn this thing around, but I'll say the clock management down the end of that game was something that has just been so lacking with the Jets since forever. There were so many small moments. Number one, there was the catch by Corey Davis that maybe if reviewed wasn't a catch, and the Jets teams of old would have, what's going on? Huddling,
Moseying around.
a coach yelling on the sideline, not knowing, and then the flag comes out, and then you're marching the ball back, right? But they, by the time I'm screaming it, and then they pan to the field, and they're already, the ball's handed off, and the play is done. And it's like little things like that, and then bleeding the clock all the way down. People say, "What are they doing? Snapping?" It's like, no. All the time in the world. They had 3 timeouts at a time. They could have called timeout and ran another play after the Breece Hall touchdown if they needed to. Because how many times have we seen, just as football fans, a team punches that in with like 57 seconds left, and then other way, the other opposite team is scoring. So they handled that absolutely brilliantly. They really, really did. And with Zach Wilson, watching it live, I was like, oh man, this is really ugly. But honestly, when I rewatched it, there were some of the yips that we saw last year. There's like a screen pass skipping in the dirt. And I'm going to, on those specific throws, he gets a 1 game back pass for me.
Of course.
On that. Like
first game in 9 months. Right.
And then after that, I remember the Houston game last year, he looked kind of the same, right? But after those, screen passes, checkdowns, now those got to be automatic for Zach. But I think I saw a lot of things that are really encouraging. I'd rather him have to work on that than think that he doesn't have the ceiling to make the really difficult plays, because the ball on the boundary to Elijah Moore, that on a freaking rope, and then those BBs over the middle to Corey Davis.
That's a big boy throw.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the one to Garrett Wilson, where if you watch it on there's guys on Jets X Factor who have cut it up on Twitter, like the all 22 view, and he's letting it rip before these guys are out of their break. So anticipatory throws, trusting his guy's going to be there, trusting his arm's going to make it there. And that was just huge. There was no fluff in that drive. Those were all big time throws. Gotta have it. 3rd down, 4th down. Yeah, absolutely love to see it. And with Robert Saleh, the team fought. And I think it's important to learn how to win and learn how not to lose. And the next time you're up against it, whatever the adversity is, injury, calls not going your way, on the road against a good team, down 2 scores in the second half, you know and you believe and you can play like you've been there before, because you have, and there's no substitute for that.
And that's the thing that I think I love, as the 2-2 is awesome, and just being 2-2 is great. And Frank, thank you so much for the comment and the support of both of our channels. I think the thing that stands out to me about both of these games, besides being 2-2, which again is cool, is that the Jets made this improbable comeback in limited circumstances against the Browns. So when the situation presents themselves, you'll always believe. And number 2, seeing your quarterback, the young quarterback, because the first one was Joe Flacco, but seeing your young quarterback, again, have the bravado to go around and say, we're going to score a bleep and touchdown. We're not kicking a field goal. We're not going to overtime. Like, hey, guys, don't worry. I'm going to get us right in range, and we'll attempt a long field goal, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to overtime and see what happens. No, he said, we're going to go score a bleep and touchdown, baby. And they're like, okay, let's see what this kid got. And then he actually went down and scored a touchdown. I think the rest of them, like, as Breece Hall said after the game, I got to crochet that one on a pillow. He's got big balls. Okay, let's put that on the t-shirt. Like, yes, he does. And I think that kind of confidence, like when you see, like, I compare it to the Santa Claus thing all the time. That some people need to see Santa's fat ass come down the chimney before they're like, okay, I believe in Santa. Some people will have the faith where they just believe that Santa's there, even if they never see the evidence. Again, belief without evidence is that faith that people are supposed to have. So for Zach Wilson, even though some of the people on the team may have said, oh, Zach Wilson's our guy, to actually see it as a tangible product of him orchestrating them down the field forever will be ingrained in their brains. And I think that will be, again, a phenomenal message that is continued to sprinkle in. And James, hitting back up for those who are just joining us, I know we're getting people coming in and out of the channel naturally on a live show. It's Boy Green, it's Buffalo right to my right here. And guys, make sure you check out both of our channels. Again, like the video, hit subscribe down below. We started off the show with that passionate speech. It's on my Twitter account if you guys want to see it, at BoyGreen25, or just rewind to earlier in the video of Robert Saleh describing at the beginning of the offseason the Jets' struggles, to put it lightly, inside the division and their average margin of defeat as they're 0-12 on an 0-12 division-less streak right now. is over 16.6 points per game. James puts it well here. The other team could spot us 2 touchdowns in these AFC East matchups, and they would still win the game. Again, they have to change that narrative. The narrative will not change itself. So, again, just a kind of a powerful note there as we continue to work our way through the comments here.
Can I touch on that Robert Saleh quote for a second?
Do.
Because
yes.
I think that, I've been critical of some. With Robert Saleh, I like that he is clearly trying to build a culture and he values culture. And I like that because our last 2 coaches, I think, make no attempt to do that at all. But I've had some concerns about the implementation. When you were on my show last, we talked about some of the really lame excuses he's made.
Right.
But that mindset right there that he just delivered to his team, the fact that he was taking ownership, like we're 0-12. He wasn't here for all those games.
No,
him taking ownership of the situation of what it was and demanding that it be fixed immediately, emphatically with expletives in there. Like that is the intensity and the leadership that got me so excited when we hired Robert Saleh as our head coach. And that's the version I want to see of him more. And I hope that I hope that maybe it's an optimistic hope is that his excuses at the podium are a way of him trying to have his players back. I'd still prefer him to stop doing it. And then maybe behind closed doors, we're getting a little bit more of that. And I hope that's the case because that's one of my favorite quotes, I think, of Robert Saleh as a Jets head coach. I love it, man.
100%. And I think to your point that I can only hope and beg that the accountability questions that raised a lot of eyebrows last week was purely player driven. But again, the point is that Buffalo, we saw those issues once again in Pittsburgh where we got 2 fouls in particular. The Carl Lawson one, which completely flipped the game at the end of that first half. And then the CJ Mosley one, which you could call ticky-tack. It was clearly the guy was going down and CJ went in after him anyway. Maybe that'll only be called 1 out of every 2 times, but still, don't even put yourself in that position. He was already going down. So they need to clean it up. Too many of those veteran mistakes. And again, against Steelers, they got away with it. Historically speaking, they will not. They're in the league leaders in a lot of those categories. They're actually doing very well. I can't remember who tweeted out. It was probably the Jets X Factor people. They're great. In terms of pre-snap penalties, the Jets have done very well this season. In terms of all those personal fouls and extracurriculars, they're among the league leaders, which again, apologize for not remembering, but calling it a mixed bag. So we do need to see that. Let's just go to Facebook user. I don't think I've ever seen this before, but I love the, keep the anonymous going here. Mystery Facebook user. I believe we have a great chance to win this upcoming game with the Dolphins, and for good reason. David, even going as so far on YouTube, at home, backup quarterback, off-road win. It's a blessing. We're going to be 3-2. Boom, book it. Buffalo, let's go. We're 3-2. We're already in a potential tie for first place in the AFC East. You love to see the chutzpah there. That's very nice. So I like that. Let's go to this from JE. My concern is that linebacker coverage on tight ends mostly is horrible. Maybe another DB or safety instead of a linebacker. Mike Gesicki, by the way, I just did a great interview, if I do say so myself, and I do. Brian Miller of Fin Fanatic, that's already up on the channel. We did a full Jets-Dolphins preview. It was an hour long, so thank you to Brian's help. Mike Gesicki is 4th on the Miami Dolphins receiving yards right now with about 71. It's 71 or 77. And to be honest, the trade rumors Brian said are real, that they could flip Mike Gesicki at any point. He was franchise tagged. So he's got a lot of talent. Obviously, he's killed the Jets before with some of these crazy one-handed catches, but he is really down in the pecking order, and they're going to have a backup quarterback. So I'm not quite sure this is going to be as big of an issue. Of course, in general, they're eventually going to have to do it. Both Quan and CJ Mosley were somewhat picked on a little bit in terms of their coverage. So we're going to need to see some upgrades from that perspective. Not sure how big of a factor will be specifically in this game, although we just haven't seen Teddy Bridgewater in this offense with a full week of prep. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah. I think Mosley is horrible. He's had a rough start to the year. I think last year, I think he was actually underrated just on an awful defense, but flying around and making plays. But I think overall the linebacking unit has been a little bit disappointing, particularly in coverage. It's never been Quincy's strong suit. Quan has probably played the best, but CJ, you got to wonder if just father time has caught up to him a little bit playing a physical position. But Gesicki, you're right. He's been off to an incredibly slow start. I think I'm still more worried about the receivers, even though our corners are much stronger than our linebackers and safeties.
100%. I will give I know a lot of people are calling out CJ Mosley here in the comments, and I respect all your guys' opinions. This is a show of the people, so whatever you guys say, again, we're bringing up comments here throughout the show. Connor Rogers, a good guy that I love and part of the Badlands show, a subscription-based Jet show. If you guys haven't heard of it or seen it, if you're willing to throw some of your loose change around, they're a good show. And Connor Rogers breaks down the All-22, so there's some cool film breakdown with your purchase. And he actually says CJ Mosley has been kind of a hidden guy as it pertains to the run game and why the Jets have been so good. So there's been some coverage issues, but he says actually that he's been doing a really fine job there. So that's something that, of course, that you're really going to like to see. And there you are. There's TJ Decker, who must have I brought up the wrong one here, but we have TJ Decker. I just lost your comment, but he just agreed and saw the Connor Rogers stuff about him on the channel. So shout out to him for being part of we got like 1 million comments in here. So my apologies for me. Oh, there it is. Okay. TJ Decker. I've heard Connor Rogers say he's better than fans are saying. He said he's pretty decent, gets run, but does get exposed in coverage. Yeah, he did say that on the latest Badlands episode. Again, they do a really good job making it there. So Jets NY 102 has a bold prediction here saying we're making the playoff, fellas. Book it. Buffalo, what's your bold prediction that you can give either for this Dolphins game, for the season, or really anything? I know you had some bold ones with the Elijah Tucker stuff on Twitter, so maybe you could double down on that if you'd like. But I want to get some bold predictions out there. Buffalo, what do you got?
Sure, maybe it's not as bold now, but I think before the season, I predicted the Jets were going to go 9-8, and that made people faint in the streets. It was way too crazy, too much expectations, and I said that they should be competing, sniffing at that 7 seed, and I was told the AFC West was going to be the greatest division in the history of professional sports. That the AFC East might be a better division than that one. Honestly, how those teams have shaken out so far. So if you win this game, you're 3-2, and I think that if there's no reason we can't go 9-8, and 9-8 will put you right there needing a tiebreaker or a crazy scenario where, like the last 2 weeks, if we win and these two teams lose, we could get in. My prediction is that the Jets probably don't make the playoffs, but I guess the boldest one would be the one you mentioned with AVT. And
refresh us on that.
I think that if AVT, if he is asked to play left tackle again for a decent stretch of games pending Dwayne Brown and George Fant's health, and he looks the part like he did in Pittsburgh, the Jets have to seriously consider if AVT is their franchise left tackle. Now, before everyone calls me an idiot, everyone called me I do have idiotic takes. This just wasn't one of them. Everyone called me an idiot on my YouTube channel and on Twitter, on every platform. I said AVT needs to start at tackle, Herbig at guard. You can't start McDermott. And that's what the Jets did. You know what my source was? My source was Robert Saleh preferring Zach Wilson not die, and having Connor McDermott protect his blind side would probably have led to Zach Wilson being critically injured. So we don't want to do that. And the benefit of being an idiot, Paul, is that I don't overcomplicate things. If you have a guy who looks like he could be your franchise left tackle, he's 23. Your franchise quarterback who he's protecting is 23. Boom, you're done. And you move on, because who is the left tackle of the future on the Jets? Not George Fant or Dwayne Brown. I don't think so. And you might say, oh, well, let's draft our franchise left tackle next year. Well, that's easier said than done. It's been going on 8 years since Brickashaw Ferguson retired. And if, again, it is an if, like if AVT doesn't look the part at tackle, then it's a non-starter. But if he looks like a very good left tackle, I think that is more valuable than even an elite guard. And it's really a good problem to have either way, but I think the Jets might have to consider it if he keeps up that level of play on the blind side.
Ooh, hot. It's spicy. I will say this, that I think, and you kind of mentioned it at the back end of your answer, and then we'll get to a YouTube super chat that's just coming in, is that I believe, I know some people, it may have even been you, Buffalo, someone compared Elijah Tucker's measurables to that of Rashawn Slater, who's among the best left tackles in all of football. And they said, hey, like for anyone who's questioning it, look at the measurables. They're very close. I do believe that, and I'll kind of mimic some of what Connor Rogers said on the Badlands show, is that the ceiling at tackle may not be as high as guard. And maybe because the position of left tackle is so much more valuable than guard, maybe even a lesser than elite left tackle is still better than an all-pro guard, which you can make that argument. I would just say I am fine with it in the doomsday scenario. That's what I've been calling it recently, with, again, the entire room imploding. It's likely going to be, I know Robert Sala said Max Mitchell's likely not going to play this week. Duh. But I think he is eventually going to land on IR. So then you'll have 4 starting tackles essentially on injured reserve through the first month of the season, which is hardly ideal, which leads us to the doomsday scenario of why AVT had to start at left tackle. So I'm fine in the intermediate. Anything that will hopefully keep Connor McDermott off the field is always good news. However, I think the limited ceiling in terms of that transition may cause a little bit of issues if somehow you just committed to him. Although, again, I love your initial take, Buffalo, and I always thought it was a pipe dream. I never thought the Jets would actually do it, is, again, putting AVT at left tackle and then promoting Nate Herbig, because we saw it as fans. I think a lot of us said, yeah, that's great, but who knows if the Jets will actually do it. And Herbig actually, once he kind of found himself, was pretty steady Eddie there, quite frankly, at guard. Now, he's no AVT, obviously, from an elite standpoint, but good enough to be able to run your offense. And I think that's really what we're going to see. So I like the sizzling hot take there, Buffalo. Again,
it's a good problem to have. Hey,
yeah.
People call out my trash takes in the comments below. Hey guys, I've been on the show 2 times, and both of my takes were that Joe Flacco needs to sit immediately and Zach Wilson needs to play, and that AVT would play at tackle against Pittsburgh. Wait till I catch an L first before you call me trash. I'm 2-0 on those. All the Joe Flacco truthers and AVT will never take a snap at guard people are very quiet.
That's for sure. He's batting 1,000, and that's why he's got 5,000 subscribers. I'm just some scrub at 2.5. So I guess that's just what happens. I got to take some notes. Let's go to a YouTube super chat, which again always gets priority. We try to answer all your comments, of course, but you guys are wild. We're getting hundreds of comments in here, but you can guarantee with a YouTube super chat. So feel free to throw a little change in our tin cup, and we will bring you up. So Abe Lab Studios, who I've seen, quite frankly, on Buffalo's channel as well. Hey, my guys, if we don't get to Teddy with 4, how often do you see us blitzing Jet smoked Finns on Sunday, fellas? Okay, I love the chutzpah. I will say this. I think they are going to, whether it's from Quinnen Williams' constant yelling or just their own philosophies, I don't anticipate. Again, you can always adapt during a game and call situational blitzes. The Dolphins blitz, according to our latest analytics, over 50% of the time with cover zeros and some cover 1 look. So the blitz is coming from the Dolphins. We will see if Zach Wilson and the Jets can take advantage. Again, that's going to be very testy if their top 2 corners are out for Miami, because Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore are man beaters, and I think for sure they could take advantage. But again, in terms of getting to Teddy, I would probably just ride the 4. But I think a valuable lesson, and we talked about this with Brian Miller, is you don't want to get Jacoby Brissetted. And what I mean is that 4-man rush did not get to Jacoby Brissett, and he looked like Michael Vick out there. So you don't want that to happen. So Teddy Bridgewater, I would throw him in the same pool, and maybe that's insulting, but I've thrown him in the same pool as Jacoby Brissett. And you have to, both the Jets and Dolphins saw that tape. You got to make sure that does not happen. So you have to be willing to adapt. And I'm going to be honest, Abe Lab, my gut says it's going to be a lot of 4-man rush. And with Quinnen Williams playing the way he has and Carl Lawson continuing to get better, I think that will be enough, especially for a questionable Dolphins offensive line. What say you, Buffalo?
Yeah, I think that as a football fan, right, you would like the idea of Sauce and DJ Reed locking up Waddle and Tyreek Hill one-on-one. It might be the most intriguing cornerback and wide receiver matchup in the NFL. Like, I think the Miami Dolphins have the best wide receiver duo right now, and I think the Jets have the best cornerback duo right now. But as a Jets fan, I don't know if we need to do that. I think you'd like to give them some safety help and rely on this defensive line to eventually break out. I think a breakout game from the defensive line is coming. I think we're going to see one of those 5 or 6 sack explosions that we saw in
7
Tennessee.
sacks, like the Titans game, yeah.
Yeah, oh, was it 7 last year in Tennessee? Wow,
yeah, I believe so. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, and that was without obviously Carl Lawson and Jermaine Johnson. So the defensive line should be better this year. And I think that's the strategy. You want to make Teddy Bridgewater throw into tightly contested windows. Can he push it outside and deep down the field? And when we do rush 4, I think you brought up a good point of the Jacoby Brissett running and then losing containment against Joe Burrow a few times. I think if you are only rushing 4, you kind of have to have better whatever you want to call it, gap or lane integrity, right? If you're running all these nasty stunts and twists and everyone's going all crazy different directions, and then all of a sudden you leave an entire open lane to Teddy Bridgewater, who's, he's not Lamar Jackson, right? He's not Kyler Murray, but he'll go get you 15 or 20 yards with his legs if you leave him a wide open lane. So I think that's an important note. I think the Jets have kind of gotten caught a little bit out of position with the defensive front. So that's something we can clean up, but I'm confident in this defense's ability to keep the Miami Dolphins in the under 30 points. I think if you do that with the way the Dolphins defense is reeling with Zach Wilson, being able to hopefully take advantage of the cornerback matchups, I think the defense should be able to give us a chance if they keep Miami in that 24 to 27 range of points.
I want to follow up on something that you said earlier. I forgot to mention myself. You mentioned that the Dolphins defense has had some issues, and they certainly have. I do want to provide proper context. They have, of course, played Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow, so that could be a factor in some of the leakiness. I think, what is it, over 400 yards a game? So it could be a factor as well. So maybe we don't really know how good or bad the Dolphins defense is because they've played all these elite quarterbacks. So that could also be a factor. But again, those cornerback plays potentially being out, it may not be the same Dolphins, Brian Flores defense that we're used to, although they have had some of those nuggets. Let's go a little rapid fire on a couple of these here, Buffalo. TJ Decker jumping in. Are you guys concerned about the Jets not being able to get the ground game going? I'll go first off. I think it's more so on LaFleur than the running backs, to be candid. I think old Breece Hall has actually been 4.7 per carry and change, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. And when you consider that average without the big runs yet, that would naturally throw off a yard per carry average. You know what? That 4.7 is rich, and it's only going to get better when he gets those breaks, which I think are coming. Michael Carter, far less effective so far with straight-up rush, but I would certainly incorporate him more in the passing game. So I'm not concerned about it from a Jets running back perspective. It's on the coaches to make sure they stick to it. Buffalo?
Yeah, I think, I guess I'll paraphrase somebody smarter than me, right? That's always a good way to answer a question. I was listening to the Jake Asman show earlier this week, and he had Robbie Sabo on, and Robbie was talking about the offensive line and all the moving parts, and he said that the lack of continuity actually impacts the run blocking more so than the pass pro. Because the pass pro, it's often, mano on mano, just keep your quarterback clean. But the run blocks, especially in this system, it's a lot of like timing and multiple blocks coming together to create alleys. And the run blocking just hasn't been good. I feel like you haven't seen a lot of big gaping holes for like Breece Hall or Michael Carter to really get into that second gear. So I do think it's a matter of chemistry and just the overall scheme, because the running backs are definitely good. And I think we have to commit to the run more. We can't just, even if you're down, 10 in the first half, you can still run the ball. If you're down a touchdown in the fourth quarter, you can still run the ball. I think even on that last touchdown drive, right, against Pittsburgh, we were running the ball a little bit, and then we still had that threat of that RPO, and that helped. That opened up those throws over the middle. So I would like to see the Jets try and keep it 60-40 pass and run, and you got to give these guys a chance to get into a rhythm. Breece Hall strikes me as the kind of guy who he needs volume, right, and you got to live with a couple of 1 or 2 yard runs because a 30-yard run is coming, and I think Breece Hall is built like the kind of back that will get stronger as the game goes on, and I think we need to lean on him. He had 21 carries the first 3 games, and then almost all of that in one game last week. I like to see him get 16 to 18 touches against Miami.
All right, let's go to, I can only assume, WWE superstar Big E from YouTube joining in. Do you think Bryce Hall has a chance to make his way back to active roster anytime soon? Buffalo, I'll let you take this one first.
Do you think? Well, I think there's maybe certain matchups where they decide to carry an extra corner, but I don't think he's going to usurp. I think Brandon Echols is going to be the guy ahead of him as the number 4 corner. I think they like Brandon Echols better in man-to-man. Bryce Hall, but it's a good problem to have because Bryce Hall, what is he, corner number 5? He might be the best corner number 5 in the NFL, if that means anything to anybody. I do think he is someone, and this was floated this offseason, and I said no way. Because he provides depth. Like, should we trade him? And I'm like, no, he provides good depth. But you do have to consider at some point, like with him and Mims, if we're not even going to dress them, and now it's a quarter into the season, they got to hold some trade value. I think that might be a consideration as we approach the deadline. Is there a team that wants to cough up a draft pick for Bryce Hall?
Yeah, I lean more towards unless injury happens, although I agree with Buffalo. It's a very astute observation on situational awareness. We've talked about, one-on-one with tight ends potentially and using him in that way, although we've seen Sauce be very effective against Mark Andrews. So that's one that I would kind of TBD. But right now, I think he's kind of cryogenically frozen. I will say this, though, in terms of trades, Denzel Mims to the Giants seems to make too much sense. Denzel Mims' best game in the preseason was against the Giants. Of course, they had the joint practice of the Giants Jets are intimately familiar with Denzel Mims. They swiped Jason Pinnock when they had the chance off of waivers. That was one with all the Giants injuries, Kenny Golladay getting hurt again. And again, that I think Buffalo, you were probably the one that set it out first, that Zach Wilson now has more touchdowns in his New York career than Kenny Golladay. Was that you over the weekend?
That was NYJ Maddie that had that.
Yeah. I'm trying to give you credit for something someone else did. But either way, that one was hilarious. So very, very well done. So they could use the help. That's one trade I would make. I know there's a lot of Denzel Mims stands in our audience, but again, to Buffalo's point, if they're going to be cryogenically frozen anyway, I get just for injury, so it's better to have that than nothing. But if you could get reasonable something, I would certainly entertain that if I was there as well. And then I think there's no question here, but I think it just needs to be said from Christopher. DJ Reed's the man. And this is a guy, I'm going to be honest, you can make it this guy or someone else, Buffalo. I'll let you answer this question. Who is the player that the Jets signed, drafted, or acquired in any way whatsoever that has risen above your expectations? I'm going to cheat and use DJ Reed. I'm going to be honest. I knew little about him. I knew a little bit about, because I'm a freak, I remember him getting cut from San Francisco, getting picked up by Seattle, but I wasn't watching Seattle games to that level to know how well he was playing. When he was a free agent, I saw him in the pool with the other guys, but we were looking at Stephon Gilmore's, J.C. Jackson's, other names, and when the Jets, quote-unquote, settled on DJ Reed, I'm like, we got a 5'9" slot corner? That's what Michael Carter II is. And wait, he's a boundary corner? Oh, great. Okay, cool. So I had no expectation whatsoever. The money was rich. I'm like, oh, man, what are they getting here? And he has so far risen above expectations. He's been a stud. Who's that player for you? Again, draft, free agency, waivers, anything. You had some level of expectation heading into the season, and they've surpassed it to some level.
Garrett Wilson. I thought Garrett Wilson, there was a lot of one of the most common questions I got on my channel was, can Garrett Wilson have this Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase like impact? And obviously we don't know if he's had quite that season, but I thought I did a lot of managing expectations because with him and Jermaine, and they've both pleasantly, I've been wrong. They've both been such impact players right away, but I felt like it was really unrealistic to expect Jermaine Johnson to go out there and have a 10-sack rookie season, Garrett Wilson to go out there and have a 1,000-yard wide receiver season, because those positions, it usually takes year 3 to pop. Where like Sauce and Brees, I was like, they're going to be out the box ready to go just because of the nature of the position that they play, and with Sauce just being, in my opinion, as talented as any player in the draft. But I did not see Garrett Wilson having a second career game where he goes off for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, wins it by himself. And if you go back and you watch the all 22, and you don't even have to be an expert. Like, I don't know, I'm not watching offensive linemen for hand placement and all that, but we know what it looks like when a wide receiver gets open. And he, as much volume and stats that he's had that's impressive for a rookie, there have been chunks of yards. And Paul, I'm serious, dude, like 6 touchdowns left on the field where this kid was wide open in the end zone, but either Flacco or Zach didn't see him. And most importantly, the offensive line didn't hold up long enough for a quarterback to get there. So this kid has unlimited potential, and he's, man, you start to think of wide receivers that we've had, that we've drafted, and he's going to be on a short list pretty time soon.
100%. Again, the guys like Santana Moss, Lavernius Cole, some of those tryhards really jump to mind. But again, what is his potential as a number 10 overall pick? I think that will continue to be fascinating. He's a guy that, again, I'm really intrigued to see what else he could become. Again, he's going to have some games like this, but where obviously last game where he's like 3rd or 4th on the team in receiving, I still think he's going to find a way, especially with Zach Wilson, the more opportunities that they end up getting together. I'll throw another one out there, Jermaine Johnson, who in limited reps, quite frankly, already has 2 sacks, and both of his sacks aren't cheap. They're like clean rips, and you just wonder, man, he's going to be a guy that needs some more PT. So he's a guy that certainly I've circled as another guy.
Max Mitchell, man?
Impressed.
How about Max Mitchell jumping in there?
Obviously, of course.
4th round pick and playing right tackle. A lot of people saying Sauce, and I really thought he was going to not be this good, but I really thought that the Sauce was going to be immediately a very good starting quarter in the NFL. So I don't know how much of a surprise I would consider it, but it doesn't take away from how impressive he's been. He's been unbelievable, as advertised every step of the way.
Yeah, I think so as well. Let's see. TJ Decker, AFC East is technically one of the toughest divisions in the league right now. No one cares about the Browns. I will say in general, heading into the year, I'm going to be honest, with all due respect to, all the making fun ofs, rather, is probably the better way to put it, of like Mac Jones and others. I thought the AFC East was going to be tough. And Buffalo obviously is this impenetrable beast. I don't think Buffalo felt that way about Buffalo. But Buffalo, New England, I thought was going to be a regression candidate, but how much? Because they always have Bill Belichick, so you normally give them the benefit of the doubt. And then the Dolphins are talented as hell, and I had high expectations for this Jets team. Me and Buffalo were aligned with our 9-8 predictions. But yeah, AFC East is tough, and I am, again, the only way they can make it tougher is if the Jets win. If they roll over like a dead fish against Miami, and pun intended, I suppose, then only God knows what this is going to be. So again, this is why I say it's such a big statement game, from figuring everything out. The key, of course, is for the New York Jets to make things different and prove that they're not the same old Jets. And competing on Sunday will be a big difference, although I think they can win the game straight up from that perspective. I'm getting a lot of Ruckert. There's a lot of Jeremy Ruckert fans. I will just say this. This is an article I wrote earlier. So Buffalo, feel free to say I'm an idiot or jump on the bandwagon. So I saw a lot of CJ Uzomah hate over the weekend, and I'm like, you know what? Let's write an article about CJ Uzomah. I haven't done that in a while. And then I got enough of the Twitter takes where the article headline was kind of built around the big waste of money. Remember, he signed a 3-year deal for $24 million, $8 million per year average. He was signed first before Conklin, and the inside story from the One Jets Drive and other nuggets is basically Joe Douglas said he was only going to get CJ Uzomah. And then when they saw the wide receiver market get crazy, like the Christian Kirks of the world, they went, you know what? Why don't we just double dip at tight end? Maybe that's a better value. And that's the only reason Conklin's here, for those who do not know that. But Uzomah, he has one catch for 5 yards, my boy, Buffalo. That's it. Now, he's only played in 3 of the 4 games, so he has not played in all 4. But one catch for 5 yards, I don't give a flying hoot what you're doing. All these people were defending Uzomah after I wrote the article, saying, well, he's a really good blocker. For $24 million, you couldn't find a better guy for blocking for a little bit cheaper. Again, some fans will say, well, it's not my money. I don't care. But $24 million, that's a lot of moolah. By the way, more than Tyler Conklin's getting. And to me, Uzomah's been, and it's disappointing because I had high expectations for Uzomah. He's a loud guy, so I've known of him for a while, especially with the Bengals' recent success. And what a major disappointment. $24 million to be a blocker. Yikes.
Yeah, I think when we first signed both of them, my thought was that we'd kind of see a 50-50 split between CJ and Conklin. And CJ had the more name recognition, probably because he played in the Super Bowl. But I think over the summer, it was obvious that Conklin had separated himself as the number 1 receiving tight end, and he built the chemistry with Zach right away. With CJ, I think it really comes down to, and I guess this is an optimistic spin because he has been disappointing. I just pulled up. He's only played 81 snaps, so he's really not getting on the field a ton. And I think that's because I think Mike LaFleur envisioned maybe running some more 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. And then, the draft falls a certain way where they get allegedly the 5th best player on the board, Garrett Wilson at number 10, and he's just ready to go right away. So now it's like if to bring CJ Uzomah on the field, like, are you taking off Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson? I don't want to do any of that. I want to keep our best players on the field, and you can still run the ball plenty out of 11 personnel. So I think it just shakes down to that more than anything else. But if he's just going to be a blocker and his role doesn't evolve, there's an out after his contract. I don't think you could justify bringing him back. I think then you would have to go with Tyler Conklin as your 1, and then maybe Ruckert, who's cheaper on a rookie deal, can do some more of that blocking, which he did very well with at Ohio State. So I think you'd rather have a little bit of an embarrassment of riches and maybe quote unquote waste so far a little bit of money than be left 1 skill position player short.
Last one here, Buffalo. Before we get you out of here, I'll stay on to answer a couple more questions here on the live stream. Speaking of tight end, Tyler Conklin. I did the math again. That wonderful associate's degree from CCC and bachelor's degree from Oswego. Thanks, guys. And I'm glad I'm getting my money's worth here. That Tyler Conklin, for as disappointing as CJ Uzomah has been thus far, Tyler Conklin, here's what he's on pace for this season. 89 catches, 816 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Those receptions would be the most by a Jets tight end in franchise history, and the yardage total of 816 yards would be 4th most by New York Jets tight end all time. By the way, I say fourth, and really he could surge even more beyond that if he's just a handful of yards. I don't have all the data in front of me, but I remember it when I was counting it up. If he gets another 15, 20 yards, he could surge even higher on that list because, again, the number one total was right under 1,000 yards. I think there was Mickey Schuler who owns that yardage total. So, again, Tyler Conklin has been a friggin' beast. Now, there's been some, the fumbles and then the tip pick. Like, there's been some bad. But, man, Conklin absolutely delivering from that perspective. Again, I sent out that tweet earlier today, so you guys can go check it out there to see the stat as well as a Tyler Conklin appreciation tweet. And at least this guy's been a really nice find out of Minnesota who's really delivered for this Jets offense.
He's, there's been a few free agent signings that throughout it's early, right? Throughout the first 4 games, the Jets fans are kind of like, Lakin Tomlinson struggled. Jordan Whitehead had a good game against Pittsburgh, but kind of had his moments in coverage where he didn't look great. And then Tyler Conklin with the drops and the fumbles. The one I'm the least worried about, Tyler Conklin's going to be fine. The dropping the ball and fumbling was something he didn't do at all in 4 years in Minnesota. So I don't know what it is. Is he pressing because he got paid and it's a new team? Whatever the case may be, he's getting open and his separation is there. He's clearly the most skilled receiving tight end we've had since Dustin Keller, and he's a good blocker. And he does something really well as a tight end. He's one of the best pass blocking tight ends in the NFL. And you don't really think of tight ends as really pass blocking. You rely on your offensive line to do that. But the thing is, with the Jets' offensive tackle situation, it's actually been a little bit of a godsend. He's been asked to, like in the Browns game, he was double teaming Myles Garrett a bunch that game. And that's something that could really help supplement the offensive line struggles we've had. He is probably the most complete skill set at tight end the Jets have had since Mickey Schuler. Like Dustin Keller couldn't block. Who are we talking about here? Austin Safarian-Jenkins, Anthony Becht.
Chris Baker,
Chris touchdown maker Baker.
Yeah.
Chris Herndon, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's been a position that the Jets haven't really dipped their toes into, like the modern NFL tight end. And I'm not calling Tyler Conklin the next coming of Travis Kelce, but I think he's going to provide a nice security blanket for Zach Wilson. I'm really glad he's on the team.
As am I. Buffalo, before we get you out of here, as you're always so generous with your time, and again, a reminder myself that you guys can catch me in Buffalo on each other's channels on a week-to-week basis. This week was Boy Green's Turf. Next week we'll be on the Buffalo Jet Fan YouTube channel, which again, down below is the link to his channel. Feel free to hit that subscribe button and blow up that head even bigger so he can't fit through his door because, again, over 5,000 subscribers. We'd like to see 10K by the next time that we join each other, and I imagine that's going to happen sooner rather than later. But Buffalo, feel free to give everybody a plug for the 200-ish people we have in here live right now. Feel free to give a plug for anything you have coming up on the channel before our next meetup next Wednesday.
Yeah, so the Buffalo Jet Fan, Twitter, YouTube, come on by. Try to get a video out every day, every other day. I've been trying to do more lives. People have asked for more live content, a little bit longer shows, so I'm trying to do more of that. I had Matt O'Leary on earlier today, so that interview is uploaded. Really happy for Matt. He just jumped into the Jets content game as his full-time gig, which is like
the dream for all of us, right? Yeah.
Right. So really talk to him about his journey all the way from just making his first video to, hey, this is how I'm going to pay my bill. It's really cool stuff. And we break down the Jets too. I have Kayla Pace on tomorrow and some interesting guests all the time. Me and Ian from Jet Central do a video every week previewing the next upcoming game. And obviously you guys all know Ian, then Boy Green next Wednesday around the same time. We'll be doing a live show on my channel, hopefully reacting to a Jets win over the Miami Dolphins. So Paul, Boy Green, enjoy the game, and we'll talk ball soon, brother.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Buffalo. Appreciate it. So there he is, a Buffalo Jet fan joining us on the channel. Now, I normally sign off at the same time as Buffalo, but we're going to keep it around for a little bit here because I'm going to be going on a little mini vacation. I'm heading down to Massachusetts, going to let the baby see the Boston Aquarium and all that fun jazz. Don't worry. I'm going to leave from the radio show tomorrow. The too much information you guys probably don't need to know. After my radio show tomorrow, I'm going to head down to the Massachusetts area. Then I'm going to come back Saturday night because you can't be missing any Sunday game day, baby. And we'll be back for, of course, a post-game live show 2 hours after every Jets game, again, right here on the Heavy on Jets Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and my Twitter account. So feel free to keep them coming. So, guys, this is an interactive show, as I reiterate. Make sure you like the video, hit subscribe down below for more amazing New York Jets content. We're going to try to get to all your comments. If you'd like to, a YouTube super chat so I can see your comment. It'll stand out from the rest. We have a lot of people commenting in here, but I'll try to get to as many as possible. Let's go, baby. Of course, Dark Soldier. Let's get a little crew. Welcome to the program, baby. Welcome. We should have kept Jason Pinnock. We so should have, man. Like, come on, man. Like the Tony Adams thing was a really cool story, but he hasn't really done jack diddly. Again, a special teamer guy, fine. But yeah, we should have kept Pinnock. I really like Pinnock, man. Had a lot of potential for sure. I really like that guy. Christian saying Sauce the next Revis. We can only hope so. I'll be honest. He's been spectacular so far. I never thought the Jets would take him with the number 4 overall pick based on philosophy and the history of the organization. But I'm going to be honest that the history of the organization with Robert Saleh, that is, and he's been spectacular. And DJ Reed has been a stud. Anthony G, I've heard this come out a lot. Sometimes you hear that about like quarterbacks and stuff, like Russell Wilson. If he would have been 4-inch star, he would have been the number 1 pick. You know, maybe some of this conversation is true, but yeah, DJ Reed, there's a lot of perceptions with vertically challenged people. I would know more than anyone standing at 5'3" on a slanted hill. So a $20 million man. Well, I'm glad we got him at the rich price of $11 million per year. A very nice average. Vern, thank you so much for the kind words. Smash the sub button. Boy Green deserves it. And also, you guys, if you want a little laughs, I'm kind of dabbling in this. So if you guys like it, make sure you react to the comments. Also on the channel, we roasted, of course, Brady Quinn and Stephen A. Smith, who was given some garbage on the New York Jets earlier this year, and we cashed in some of those receipts. That quick video, it's less than 2 minutes, is up on my YouTube channel. If you guys like those short quickies, we'll try to work in those with the live streams as well. So go check out that video. It's on the channel. Again, Brady Quinn and Stephen A. Smith getting roasted with some juicy Jets receipts. So we're trying some new stuff. Hopefully you guys love that. Jacob Klein, let's win 2 in a row before any hype. I will say this, Jacob, and again, 2 in a row would be great. We have not seen that since 2020. The Jets have won back-to-back road games for the first time since 2015, but the thing I want to see is just back-to-back wins when it matters. Remember that 2020 season was at the end of the year when the Jets were like 0-13 at that point. So I want to see it when it matters, and again, this game matters. I think this is a season-defining performance. So let's win 2 in a row before any hype. That's fine if people want to hold themselves back. For me, I ride the emotional roller coaster throughout the season. The wins, I'm elated and giddy, and the losses, of course, I'm in the fetal position. That's just who I am, but I'm glad some of you guys could kind of hold yourself back from that perspective. I really, I don't have that capability. Vern, JJ has 1.5 sacks. Steelers was his first full. And if I remember in the Baltimore game when he whipped around, it really looked like he jumped on Lamar Jackson from behind. So it should have been a full. I was there live at the game as opposed to watching it as normal, but I feel you there. Let's see. Jacob Klein. Uzama was a horrible signing, overpaid, injury prone, reason since he let him go. And I think one thing that I think a lot of us either underreacted to or overreacted to, depending on your perspective, is Tyler Conklin's last year in Minnesota before he came over is better than any year that Uzama has ever had. And Uzama, of course, spent 7 years in Cincinnati before coming over here. So, man, it does seem like we've gone a little crazy on that end. But, yeah, he's been incredibly disappointing. Jacob Klein again. Also, people, Mike Gesicki has a history against us. Teddy will rely on the safety net of the tight end and the running back. I will say that's the one point as we're kind of going through some of the tight end numbers that kind of was in the back of my head is Teddy check down could very well use a tight end security blanket. Chase Edmonds is a nice receiving back out of the backfield. And Raheem Mostert, of course, is a track star. So there is danger here. It's not one of those scenarios where, backup quarterback, Jets should automatically win. I don't quite feel that way. That would be a little too aggressive, but Jets advantage with it being a backup quarterback as opposed to Tua. Because as much as we made fun of Tua has shown some real chutzpah. He threw 6 touchdown passes against the Baltimore Ravens. You could say what you want. 6 touchdown passes is 6 touchdown passes. Good vibes. If Conklin gets hurt, you'll be thankful you have Uzama, Boy Green. That could be true. Also, Jeremy Ruckert. I wouldn't mind seeing that young kid. I don't want anyone hurt, of course. We've had Conklin on the show a few times over the summer, which we appreciate. So hopefully not. But depth is always good. But again, kind of rich on the depth, I would just say. And let's go to Dark Soldier. Since he wanted CJ and offered the same amount of money, and he said no. Dark Soldier, from what I hear, they offered him more money. and tried to get him in. I think it was Mike Garafolo. So I clip tweets and videos and things. And I clipped this one about the Jets talking about the additions of Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah. And Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network tweeted under and said, hey, after Uzomah said, hey, I'm going to the Jets, the Bengals last second tried to swipe away. We had a video on that a bunch of months ago and tried to take him away and like do some dirty friggin' deed, try to steal Uzomah away, and Uzomah went, nah, man. But, man, we just saw that with Buffalo and Washington. Remember J.D. McKissick in the offseason? He was going to Buffalo and Washington last second, kind of slimy, stole him away. That could have happened with Uzomah. Let's just see. Let's see. Wow, Vern Conk, that dude, best tight end we've had in 30 years. It very well could be. Dustin Keller's pretty good, but Conklin just seems like he's got some real chutzpah, which is really nice. Kevin Gaines, they called him Gronklin in Minnesota. We actually went over this, Kevin. If you want to see our interview, we interviewed Tyler Conklin, I believe it was twice during the summer. And on the first one, we talked about all the nicknames that Conklin had. And I'm like, oh, wow. So one of the ones I brought up was Gronklin because of the Viking stuff. I said, oh, wow, Gronklin, do you like that nickname? Is that the nickname like fans should be calling you? And you guys could go listen to the whole interview. It's on my channel. You can find it. Or just search for Tyler Conklin, Boy Green. That video will pop right up. And he said, actually, he's not a big fan of the Gronklin thing. He's like, it's fine, but the Vikings people just came up with it. And he said, and plus, since we're in the AFC East, how many Jet fans want to call me Gronklin? Like, don't you guys have bad memories and stuff? And he said, like, you could call him Conk, T-Conk. There's a couple names like that he'd be more akin to. So he is not a big fan of the Gronklin nickname. And we know that because, of course, he joined us on our channel earlier this summer. So very, very interesting. Good vibes. Jets have playmakers across the board. I'm going to be honest, bro. It's nice. We're not used to this sort of thing. So it's really tasty. I really like it. It is just spectacular. Really great to have that. Jacob Klein, tight end 1 fantasy. Not saying that until I see his rapport with Zach Wilson. Yeah, I just traded for Tyler Conklin because unfortunately I've been on the Kyle Pitts train in fantasy football, and obviously he's been a major disappointment. And he was on the injury report today, so I had to make a quick move to secure a backup tight end, a guy that could potentially start. And Conklin obviously has been great, but I wasn't able to get him when he was just a free agent. I should have listened to myself because when I headed into my big fantasy draft, I said to myself, I'm either going to get Kyle Pitts or I'm going to wait all the way to the end of the draft and no one knows because I'm the Jets guy in the room, and I'm going to get Conklin. He'll be my starter, and I'll use my third rounder on like a elite wide receiver or something. And Kyle Pitts was there, and I'm like, all right, let me go Kyle Pitts. But I would probably be undefeated in fantasy right now if I would have made the opposite switch because Conklin's been great. But unfortunately, I blew it. So I did just trade for him fantasy today. That trade should clear ahead of week 5, so he may be plugged right into the lineup. Angel Torres here on YouTube. Dwayne Brown starts. We should be fine. Angel, I'm not so sure if that's a realistic possibility. I know Salah said it's possible. We'll see how Dwayne Brown responds. But Dwayne Brown hasn't practiced in weeks because when you're on IR, you can't practice. Again, in theory, if he's good to go, he plugs right in at left tackle, which solves your problems because remember, Mekhi Becton's out for the season. George Fant's out for another 3 games. I'm missing somebody else, but Dwayne Brown would then step in at left tackle, and then Elijah Achukwu could go back to right guard, and then probably Connor McDermott at right tackle, or if you go to one of your new guys, either Big Set or Mike Remmer. So that would help, but I think it's somewhat unrealistic to be candid. I'd love to be surprised, but it would be somewhat unrealistic if Brown went from there right to the starting lineup. But I think maybe another week. Let's bring in a Dolphins fan in here. Tyler Tenbrink, fins up, baby. Big dubs this weekend. I will say this. I think the Jets can and will win this football game, but I think we're going to get a close one. I think it's going to be a tight game at the end, and let's see if the Jets can find a way to pull it out. But you Dolphins people, I give you a huge tip of the cap for what you've been able to accomplish so far this season. You deserve all the respect in the world. Let's see. Jin Pak, that is correct. Dwayne Brown did practice today. Both he and Vinny Curry coming off IR. Again, they have a 21 activation window, so we will see how the Jets handle both of those guys. By the way, for Vinny Curry, I'm kind of fine if they kind of hold the phone on him because I want to see more Bryce Huff. But Dwayne Brown, as soon as he's ready, put him in the game. But again, I would imagine another week because, again, he hadn't practiced on IR. You're not allowed to. So he just practiced for the first time in weeks. since like week one, and really even before week one, because he got hurt on the Monday of week one heading in. So he did practice today, but I'm not so sure we're going to see him immediately in the lineup. Let's go back to WWE superstar Big E. Any talk of moving more to the slot seems like that would be a perfect fit for him. That's what he did in college primarily, but the Jets view him as a multi-faceted weapon that can play on the outside and the inside. So I don't think there's any exclusive more move into the slot, but I would like to see them use that as a proponent to kind of get his engine revving as we're heading into the game. I think that is a good way to get him working. So I'd love to see it, Big E. We will see if they do that as well. Let's see. Beat division rivals now. That would be nice. Again, we haven't seen that enough, so I will only hope and pray that we get some division wins. That'd be nice. And again, figured picking that one. We talked about this earlier. I see this comment in here, so I'll bring it up before we sign off here. Angel Torres showed Tyreek he picked the wrong team. 100%. Remember, Tyreek Hill coulda, shoulda, woulda, went to the Dolphins or Jets. He ends up going to the Dolphins. Jets get Garrett Wilson, which again, in hindsight now looks great because Garrett Wilson looks special. But I was on the veteran wide receiver train because you never know what you're going to get with a rookie. Now, Garrett's been spectacular, but it's really hard to be able to make those determinations. So that's one thing that I'm a little questionable about, but it ended up working out at least, because if you think about it this way, Garrett Wilson's rookie contract is just over $20 million. Tyreek Hill is set to make $30 million just this year alone. So Tyreek Hill this season will make more than all of Garrett Wilson's rookie contract, not including the fifth-year option, because we can't factor that in yet until a little bit later. Jacob Klein, Teddy Bridgewater is probably one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. He's got a lot of experience, which you like, former first rounder, Teddy check down, but again, it's lesser than a starting quarterback. So I think that should be considered as well as it pertains to him. Jinpak, Teddy is no slouch. Not saying that he is. Again, he is no slouch whatsoever. And he's just not a slouch. But again, he is lesser than Tua, which I think gives you a good position to try to find a way to win this game. All right, Vern. Yeah, let's get the conk. I think we got the Brees down pretty good, but that would be nice as well if we can kind of find a way to get that done. I would really like it. Send in your final question, guys, and I will try to get them answered here on the show before we sign off. Pitt's tight is going to pop now that they have the rookie quarterback. If they made the switch to Desmond Ridder, that'd be cool. But so I've not traded Kyle Pitts yet, but I would love to see that as well. Vern, ABT to right tackle when Brown is ready. I'd be fine with that. I believe Elijah Tucker said today, I thought he had experience at right tackle in college. Apparently not from his interview earlier today. But I think right tackle and center are the only two positions he hasn't played. But I'd be all for that. Whatever puts the best five in the field is what Joe Douglas said and Robert Saleh said for that matter. All right, we just had one more YouTube super chat just come in, so let's end on this nugget from Chris K. the Fifth. Shout out to Green Bean. He's the third of my top 3 Jets content creators, and shout out to you, bro. Love what you're doing. Enjoy the mini vacation, homie. Chris K. the Fifth, thank you so much again. And I want to use both Chris and all you guys that send in these YouTube super chats. They mean the world to me, whether it's a quarter, $1, $5, anytime you guys decide to reach into your pockets because you love and support the show so much, again, my heart goes out to you guys because, again, you guys make this machine go. So thank you so much. And that's a great third to have. I need to reconnect with Green Bean. We did a lot of stuff together during the summer, but we need to reconnect and have Green Bean here on the show. It's been too damn long. So we will be doing that soon. Absolutely, for sure. And Chris, thank you so much. And yes, the mini vacation will be nice. Again, the baby will get to see the aquarium, my fiance's birthday, and a bunch of stuff. So we will be enjoying that. I got the trip after the terrestrial radio show tomorrow. And, of course, we'll have some more videos. You guys can check all those out on the channel from this week. Zach Rosenblatt, by the way, I'll tweet that out tomorrow, but the link is up. Wherever you find your podcast on the Jet Zone, every single week, if you guys like listening to stuff in the car, Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic joins me every Tuesday via my radio show, but you can listen to it on my podcast. Again, just simply search for The Jet Zone wherever you listen to your podcast. That interview's been up. I have not tweeted that out yet all week, but that interview is up. We had this live show today with Buffalo Jet fan. We had Brian Miller earlier. That's the Jets Dolphins preview, and Will Parkinson on Monday. So we have plenty of videos and content for you guys to consume, and I hope you guys can consume all of it. Before we get you out of here, let me give a sponsor read that makes all of this possible. Fellow Jet fan Roshan Joshi. He is a guy that supports this channel, and I want you guys to try to go support him. And you could do that for free right now in the description down below. If you guys are curious about real estate or creating wealth through real estate or business, our friends at XV Community hold a free weekly Zoom call. Again, folks, it's free. So feel free to sign up down below. The sign up link is all the way at the bottom in the YouTube description. Just check it out. What do you have to lose? And let old Roshan know that Boy Green sent you. And again, if you let him know, it helps create that sponsorship and let it continue to go together when you guys just test it out. Again, he holds a free weekly Zoom call for the public with a different 7-figure earner on as a guest each and every week. So you guys can learn a little bit of something for free. And again, there's absolutely no cost to you. And again, it would help support the show. So feel free, again, to sign up below. The link's all the way at the bottom. You could sign up below. You could connect with peers, learn from guests, and of course, ask questions. And they do this for free. XV Community is one of the best lineups every week in real estate investing. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, let's go together, baby. You can follow him on Instagram below at Rojo Sharp. And of course, sign up below as well with the link. Again, it is a free weekly Zoom call. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks Chris K the Fifth and everybody else who donated to the YouTube Super Chat this week. You allow our community to thrive, baby. And we'll be back on Sunday for the live post-game show 2 hours after the game. And what I'm going to say is a 3-2 New York Jets team that is in the thick of the AFC East. And when's the last time you guys could say that? Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Buffalo Jet Fan. Again, his YouTube link is down below if you'd like to support his channel as well. And we'll be back same time, same channel coming up on Sunday. Peace out.